Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're all having a lovely day. I was actually having a lovely day. And then I noticed that snowball that fell from the gutter when I closed the door, because I have a really heavy door here, kind of slammed shut in this new apartment, is that the snow that had fell on my shirt, it wasn't clean snow. I wasn't able to tell because this is not a light colored shirt, it's kind of dark gray, but it's actually dirty snow. And I could tell that because there's a little mark over here where there wasn't one before the snow fell on me. So I'm kind of disappointed. I hope you're having a better day. What I wanted to discuss today is this thing that I talked about in a rant about 2 months ago, where I thought people were overreacting a tiny bit, even though I wasn't a fan of this. To be clear, I'm not a fan of this whole IRS targeting transactions over $600 now and collecting more and more information and having more and more people to dig through people's stuff. As somebody who's been audited at the state level and the federal level, it's not fun. It's just fundamentally not fun, and I truly don't wish this on my worst enemy. It's aggravating, but I wanted to kind of go over the way that people are perceiving this in this article and why I think they should be less surprised with some of what's going on. So it says over here, IRS targeting your side hustle and crackdown on transactions over $600. Venmo, Etsy, and other sites add forms for payment over $600. It's getting harder to hide from the IRS. And they're talking about, they're asking for tax information. Until this year, the threshold was much higher, 20,200 interactions, so it didn't affect as many people. The moves have sparked outcry on social media. For one thing, the lower threshold comes as more and more Americans bet on themselves. A record 5.4 million adults applied to form their own businesses last year, according to U.S. Census Bureau data released this week. That's partly because it's easier than ever to use apps to sell crafts, provide services, or rent out a second or third home online. Now, again, the number is most likely more than that. You're just looking at people that properly registered their businesses. There are a lot of people that don't properly register it until they figure out if they're actually able to make money at it. Most people, when they have an idea, the first thing they do is not, go down to their county clerk's office and register everything. It's, okay, let me advertise, let me figure out if people actually want to pay for this. And once they've got 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 customers, at that point, a lot of people will then register a business once they realize that it is actually viable. So the number is most likely more than that. I'm very happy to see that happening. There are lots of people out there like me that were never able to make it, getting a, quote, real job, as my mother would have said, who were just fundamentally not fit to work within the existing structures that had to make their own. And I really love seeing people create something, whatever it is that they're creating on their own, and creating something that provides value to the world, that also then provides value to themselves that they otherwise wouldn't have found. This is amazing. But something that's important to go over here is that when we talk about all these new small businesses, and we talk about what this attorney said, quote, it's very easy to go after small businesses. It is, and I think it's important to discuss the reasoning behind that. A lot of the rhetoric I remember seeing, people were very, very happy at the IRS having an increased budget to be able to, quote, go after billionaires. And at the end of the day, I'm not saying that I have a bunch of them on speed dial, but I've met people who were multimillionaires in the 10 to hundreds range. And at one point, I even was lucky enough to meet somebody who was a billionaire and actually speak with him and form a very limited partnership on a small idea. And what I understand from meeting these people, speaking with them at length, is that they have the resources to hire a CPA and then numerous other accountants and a team of attorneys to ensure that everything they are doing is done to the letter of the law. The amount of money that they are spending on an attorney or a CPA to go over literally every single transaction that they deal with is a rounding error once they have that much money. When you're a small business, you're honestly not supposed to be spending all of your time having every single thing done perfectly with your accounting, because at the end of the day, that's not what you're an expert at. When you're first starting a business and you're the only employee of that business, what you're focusing on is providing quality service to your customers. You're focusing on I don't know, making the best lemonade, creating the best guns, or doing the best at being the best auto mechanic in your neighborhood. Whatever the hell it is that you do, building the nicest houses. You're focusing on whatever your core business is and doing it as well as you can. And every second that you spend going over tax law, taking a picture of every single receipt for every single thing that you do, which I do now religiously after being audited repeatedly. All the time that you spend on these little things, digging through the 70,000 pages of tax law to ensure you're in compliance with all of it, is time that you're not spending on your business. And as your business grows, as you do things like, let's say handle mail-ins, deal with sales of service and parts separately within a business, deal with mail-in work with different sales tax rates versus this, the more things that your business does, the more online platforms you use with different fee structures and ways of keeping track of it, the more easy it is for there to be a mistake if you're the one handling it, or you, like most small businesses, don't have a dedicated person that's making $100,000 a year there, but rather you just have some H&R Block dude at the end of the year handle your tax filings, and you do your own quarterly sales taxes. The mistakes are not going to be made at the billionaire level. A lot of the mistakes, the low-hanging fruit, is going to be at this small business level. So if your job is to investigate and find infractions, it's going to be very, very easy for you to do it at a level where people do not have somebody working full-time to ensure every single one of their transactions is done properly as a financial services or a CPA or some sort of financial professional. It's going to be really hard. You're going to have to do a lot of forensic digging to actually find what the billionaires are doing. That, again, is not popular, to be clear. There's a separation between what people think shouldn't be legal, but is, and is actually illegal or against tax code. If you're a detective, if you're some sort of forensic accountant or auditor, you're going to want the low-hanging fruit, the stuff that's easy to find, and that's going to be at the small business level. Fundamentally, it is going to be at the small business level. When we talk about, just things like somebody saying, I'll pay you your overtime off the book, so you say, from petty cash or something like that. Or, if you pay cash, I'm not going to charge you tax. This is not something that's happening at Walmart or Best Buy. This is stuff that, let's face it, is going to be happening at the smaller businesses that there's actually some chance of it not being immediately reported, because again, you're a company of like 3 people, not a company of 80,000 where somebody is going to be a whistleblower, and B, it actually makes a much bigger difference. Again, to Walmart, that little amount of money that they're saving, whatever, it's a rounding error. Whereas at a small business of 1 or 2 people, that $10,000 or $20,000 may be the difference between it being viable or not in that particular year. So a lot of this low-hanging fruit is going to be at the small business level. And as much as people are clamoring on how this is going to be great, you have more tools to go after the billionaires, more tools to check out all the transactions, more people at the IRS. At the end of the day, I believe this is going to come down on small businesses, because at the end of the day, on average, regardless of what your thoughts are on the tax law, the morality of taxation, or anything else, the infractions are going to be at the small business level. Either A, because when you're broke, the amount of money that you can save by getting around taxes is actually going to be more worth it than when you're rich. The risk reward there is greater. But B, because a lot of small businesses just fundamentally are not equipped to have a full-time expert level accountant going over every transaction to ensure that everything is done exactly as it should be. Another thing that I found interesting here is when they quoted a tweet. It said, so we say tax the rich and they decide to tax side hustles. This is not surprising at all. And if you look through history, this is not something that, really hasn't happened before. If you look at when the income tax, which was introduced around 1913, please do correct me if I get this wrong. These figures are just coming from like a book that I read 5 or 10 years ago. It was something like, I think it was a 1% tax if you made $3,000 or $4,000 or $4,500 as a married couple. And this is in 1913 money. So you're looking at somewhere between like $65,000 and $90,000 in 2022 dollars in order to be taxed at that rate. And if you were making over, I think it was like $500,000 a year or $400,000 a year, you would then be taxed at a rate of 6%. The tax was not paid by a great majority of normal Americans. I think it was something like, I'm actually going to Google it. Here. If I'm smart, I'll edit this out. Okay, so it looks like it was about 3% of the population that was subject to the income tax. So we went from a world where 3% of the population pays an income tax to where almost every employed American at this point has income tax, and our income tax is a lot higher than 1 to 6%. I'll leave it at that. If you look through history, these things that were sold to us as this is going to apply to the rich, this is going to apply to the rich, eventually applied to everyone. So if we put together a system that is designed to try and catch people who are rich and go after them to get more taxes, I am not surprised in any way, shape, or form when those tools or that rhetoric is then turned into something that winds up going after normal, average, everyday people. Because at the end of the day, the low-hanging fruit, the easier people to target are the people that don't have access or are less likely to have access to full-time tax professionals going through every single thing that they do. It says for some, the changes are at odds with President Joe Biden's vow to tax wealthier Americans. Maybe it's a boon to the IRS, but it's not coming from the billionaires. It's coming from the smaller businesses, Sandra O'Neill, a tax attorney and partner at Bowditch and Dewey, said in an interview. It's much harder to go after the billionaires. It's much harder to go after Amazon. If you have someone who makes a mistake, a small business, it's very easy to go after them, which is what I was talking about. And it says, I don't think the rich are sending $600 transactions in Venmo. I mean, this is sad, but this is so completely and utterly predictable. The new $600 threshold arrived last year as part of the American Rescue Plan, which the White House billed as a way to provide relief to small businesses hit by the pandemic. Yeah, great. Take hairstylists. During the pandemic, many beauticians struck out on their own rather than working on a commission basis for more established salons. PayPal Holdings Venmo and Block Inc.'s Cash App became hugely important to stylists, as Mary Rector, chief executive officer of the hairstyling community, behind the chair. This adds insult to injury, knowing how long they were shut down for and how much income they lost, as Rector, whose group says it includes 10 million hairdressers around the world. These people went out on their own. They started to do house calls. They started to rent chairs. That's why Venmo became such a big deal. The moves come as the IRS has been thrown into chaos during the pandemic. Our report this week from the Taxpayer Advocate Service found depleted staffing and lack of funding for the agency has caused a high volume of unprocessed returns. Taxpayers are frustrated with the backlog and lack of communication from the IRS. Well, I mean, you're welcome to put on a 1-star Yelp review. I'm sure that'll help. But that's one of the things with the IRS, and that's when I've had experiences with them, or honestly any tax collection agency, it's weird because when I talk to people who deal with tax preparation in the UK, I've never lived there, but the way they speak when you're dealing with the tax preparers in the UK, they even when they audit you, they kind of see you as a partner. They see you, they want to help you. They want to ensure that you're obeying the rules. If you didn't do something perfectly, like they'll let you know. It's not like here where I'll get some note that says we don't, even though you submitted a Schedule C in this year, we didn't see your Schedule C, and because we lost your Schedule C, we're just going to assume that you owe us $40,000. Please provide us all of the paperwork that we want by this date, and that date is typically almost always before the date that the actual mail arrived, or there will be interest and penalties. Like, it's always this threatening demeanor, this just kind of like we see you as a piñata. It's a different type of attitude. It says the IRS is in crisis. Aaron M. Collins, the National Taxpayer Advocate, said in the report, as the IRS is preparing to begin the 2022 filing season, it is poised to carry over millions of unprocessed returns and millions of pieces of taxpayer correspondence, resulting in even longer delays for taxpayers who have been patiently waiting far too long. And again, I'm not surprised at all that this is going down to normal, average, everyday people. And this was a really long time ago that I wound up doing this. So I don't know if I have to find the numbers of it, but I remember just thinking to myself, like, hypothetically speaking, if you increase the percentage that you were taking from the rich, like, what is not even the taxes they're paying, but what is the taxable income that's being reported at the very least? I remember, because there was this one sheet where you could see like the amount of taxes paid by all the different groups of people in the U.S. by their salary, and the most that you could get if you have a piñata is actually whacking the shit out of the middle class. Again, the people that were broke, there really wasn't much there. If you're rich, okay, you could you could just up the income tax, more and more and more and more and more, but eventually you run out. But the area where there was really the most area to just kind of just beat the piñata as much as humanly possible really did appear to be with the middle class and with the new business owner class. And I think that a lot of these new business owners that may just be plugging a couple of numbers in a TurboTax, that don't really understand all the intricacies of what they can and cannot write off, don't understand the intricacies of what is considered an asset or needs to be depreciated or inventory versus expensed and all this type of stuff, they're about to just fucking get it. And I feel really, really, really bad for them, because the way that this is set up in its entirety, in my opinion, again, you can disagree with me if you'd like. I'm open to hearing your comments down below. It's not set up so that somebody who has an idea, wants to quit their job and start a business from scratch is going to be able to do that without breaking some sort of tax code. Not even intentionally. Not even like they're taking money and they're putting it in their back pocket because they don't want to do things legitimately. I mean where like they actually don't even realize that what they're doing is incorrect, and they wind up doing it not because they didn't know better. I have this old joking video from about 6 or 7 years ago, back when my hair was more plentiful black and my skin had less wrinkles in it. Rossman Group policy on sales tax collection. Because I had so many people ask me, is there tax if I pay cash, that I made a name tag. Hi, I'm Lewis. We collect tax even if you pay cash, so fuck off with that if I pay cash shit. I had 2 or 3 people ask on the same day, so I put the name tag on. I mean, this is not something that people do at Best Buy. They don't do this at Walmart. Seriously, like people who walk into Walmart don't buy a TV and say, if I pay cash, is there no tax? They don't do that. It's not even, like even the cheapest person in the world, they don't bargain when they enter a Walmart or a Best Buy or a Target. They do that when they enter a small business because in our culture, for some strange reason like that, that's where it's okay. And of course, there are going to be business owners that think to themselves, I don't have to report this if you pay cash. But they do a lot of stupid shit. Like for instance, I know there are businesses out there that actually report that they have no cash sales, all credit card. It's like literally only credit card, because that's totally believable that your business that has a cash register when you walk in it is all credit card. That's horrible. That's really stupid. And I actually was friends with an IRS auditor a long time ago. I don't understand what it is that allowed us to be friends, but I kind of enjoyed hearing the stories from time to time. I should say acquaintance, more of an acquaintance. And there would be places where they would look, okay, this person's using, I don't know, Inuit Merchant Solutions, and they reported, let's just say $100,000 for this month. And then on their taxes, they report $100,000 for that month. And then he walks into the business and he sees that they have a cash register and that the customer in front is like actually handling real cash. And it's just like, this is such low-hanging fruit. Or there was another place that I used to work for that was actually every time somebody would pay him via PayPal, he wasn't reporting it. And then once he realized that PayPal reported to the IRS, he thought, I'm just going to close my PayPal account. And that's it. It just magically disappears. Like PayPal does not log any data. And because you remove the account, I'm confident the IRS can't ask them for it. That was a business that I quit about 13 or 14 years ago. And I heard that story through somebody who used to work there, that he was freaking out over, that the owner was freaking out over it. Like the small businesses are the ones that are really easy to hit, because they're the ones that are either making mistakes because they don't know any better, or the ones that are, they know better, but they just think I can get away with this. Because for them, it's worth it at that level to try and save 10 or 20 or 30K. Once you're a multimillionaire, once you're a multi-billionaire, it's like, whatever. I'm still a billionaire, like I could pay this much more tax. I'm still a billionaire. So it's not worth it from a risk point of view. I realize I'm repeating myself at that point. And since I am repeating myself and I am far too lazy to edit this video, I'm going to end it here. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And also I am excited about, I don't know if you guys remember this video, but this was a few months ago. My business is being audited by New York State. I am still thoroughly enjoying that entire process. And I am also incredibly happy that I have retained a really good CPA for over 10 years that checks through all my shit and lets me know if there's anything I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing so that I can correct it before it actually becomes a problem, who has been guiding me through this whole process. Because I've been reading some of the back and forth correspondence about what's being asked for, what's being requested, the questions being asked, and if I did not have somebody that was able to answer all these questions immediately and get access to all the available data very quickly, I'd honestly probably be losing my mind. I wouldn't actually get any work done because I would just be digging through all of this. I just feel horrible for the businesses that are going to be going through this. Anyway, one of the things that I think is coming off to a lot of people, I just want to end the video on this note, as a royal kick in the nuts, is it's kind of like if you have a horrible argument with your spouse, and rather than trying to de-escalate the argument, you say, by the way, I'm putting this camera and this tracker on you because I don't trust you when you're in the car, kind of thing. It's not the way to recover from something like that. When you have people that may not even want to start their own business or their side hustle, but they have to because the money that they were making or the money that they have in the bank is not worth as much as it was but 2 years ago, whether you're talking about rent going up everywhere from New York City to Boise, Idaho, whether you want to purchase a house and the house that you were looking at costs $200,000 more now than it was when you looked at it a year and a half ago, or whether we're talking about grocery bills and everything up going up. You have people that to have the same standard of living as a result of this debased currency, they now need to do more work. And while the very group of people that is partially responsible, which is probably giving them a little bit too much slack for that debased currency, while they're doing that, they're also saying, oh, by the way, just so you know, if you decide to get a side hustle, we're just going to be making sure that you give us our 30 to 50% of whatever you make from it. Okay? Just so you know. Again, it's one of those things where you shouldn't be cheating on your spouse if you're in a monogamous relationship. But just tapping them on the shoulder right after like a really bad argument and saying, by the way, I'm just going to have this little microphone over here to make sure that you don't do anything with somebody else in the car. It's just weird. It's not the time, again, after people are coming off of this horrible experience of the last 2 years and all the anxiety and everything and all the inflation and everything else and getting another job so that they can have the same standard of living that they do before. Just by the way, we're just going to take this extra effort to ensure that you can't get around us getting our 30 to 50% cut. It comes off really badly, even if it's something that you're technically legally entitled to. And I think that's the place that a lot of people are coming from when they are aggravated at this particular issue. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm sure I've repeated myself a lot in this video, and I do apologize for that. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you next time.